Hello friends, followers and channel members, welcome back to the channel and another video here in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, where in today's video I'm taking a first look and review at the brand new upcoming Aerosoft CRJ version 2. Now many of you will probably remember the CRJ from Aerosoft being released for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 a few years ago, and at that time this was tipped to be the most advanced aircraft for Flight Sim 2020 when it was released. This was prior to the days before PMDG and Phoenix had brought their aircraft out for Microsoft Flight Simulator. This was the one that so many people were waiting for, as it had working VNAV and lots of realistic systems. It wasn't an aircraft you could just simply jump in and fly. It needed to be fully set up correctly. Now, for those of you who have been following this channel for a few years, you will probably remember that we don't have the best history with the CRJ. I personally didn't like the aircraft in terms of how you actually set it all up as an aircraft. That is, the flows, all the standard operating procedures and that. From someone who is familiar flying Airbus, this is actually quite different and a lot more hands-on. There's no auto thrust either, for example. And yes, I'm sure many of you will all remember my final flight in the Aerosoft CRJ ended live on stream looking like this. A picture I am sent regularly and something many of you have not let me forget. I've not touched the CRJ since, and that aircraft is now probably turned into a boutique Airbnb somewhere in the valleys in Portugal where it crashed. So now I'm back with a brand new CRJ. This is version 2 for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, although it also is working in Flight Simulator 2024 to see how we get on with this new build. Now, from the start, I just want to say this is not a tutorial video. I'm not the person to teach you how to fly this aircraft correctly. There are plenty of other YouTubers online who can do that far better than I can, being an Airbus pilot. This actually is a lot more hands-on. So the version 2 release is going to bring you 3 variants. You've got the CRJ 550, the 900 and also the 700ER. Each of these also comes with various different liveries, and they are the liveries of airlines that operate the individual aircraft in the real world. Now, of course, there are many more operators in real life, and following its release, I'm pretty certain there'll be plenty of liveries available to be downloaded on flightsim.to. As far as I can see, however, though, they will need to be updated for this new version 2. In terms of the exterior modelling, then, you're not going to get the same level of detail as you do with the Phoenix or PMDG. In fact, I even think that a lot of the Inimals aircraft as well are far more detailed in terms of just the overall textures. If you do get quite close, you find a lot of the rivets and bolts, etc., aren't actually 3D and stand out. They're more just an overall texture. And as you can see here, close-up can look a little bit blurry. I'm not going to blame Aerosoft too much for this, because really you're not going to be looking this close up at the aircraft really when you're using it, but it is worth pointing out for the purposes of a review video. Now, one thing I was really pleased to see, and I'm sure many of you also share that sentiment, is a more highly detailed cabin compared to the original cabin from version 1 of this aircraft. In fact, the original cabin from version 1 was absolutely awful. When it rained, even the rain went inside the cabin. Thankfully, no such problem with this watertight airframe. As you can see, you can open up the doors to get the steps out. You can freely walk around the cabin, so you can set up those custom views and things. So yeah, really happy with this. It's not overly detailed to cause performance loss, but it is what I would call just the perfect balance of both performance and visuals. So then next we get to the flight deck, and to be perfectly honest, there's probably not too much of a difference between version 1 and version 2. I mean, how could there be? Version 1, in terms of its cabin and setup, was all pretty good, so there's nothing really they could have done too much to improve upon that. Of course, the cockpits don't change, so as I said, they are pretty similar. But I did find that they were really nice, crisp, clean textures, which we've come to expect now really from payware add-ons, so this won't let you down. Everything that you would expect to be modeled is modeled, and everything that you can see here is all working and clickable. So now let's just take a quick look at the EFB. Lots of this is self-explanatory, but just to let you know what you are in for, we've got checklists for all the different stages of flight. So for someone like me who doesn't know how to fly this aircraft properly, that is really useful. We've then obviously got various menus over the top where we can connect ground power, we can check out load sheets, and also import your operational flight plan. This will also allow you to use Navigraph charts as well on the EFB once obviously you've got all of that synced up. Now obviously most add-on aircraft require you to use SimBrief for your flight planning. This aircraft also allows SimBrief integration, and it's actually really easy, but you don't have to use it because you can literally build up your flight plan through the flight management computer and load your aircraft via the load sheet. So SimBrief integration is not required for this aircraft but is available. Now one of the things I did discover is you can view your operational flight plan in the aircraft, but for some reason I couldn't actually see all of it. Lots of the different sections were missing. I couldn't sort of click on this left hand menu as the OFP is divided up into different sections. I am using a pre-release version, so that may be fixed on release, but just worth noting at this stage. Now if you are going to use SimBrief to create your flight plan, it's good to know that there is already an Aerosoft CRJ airframe available for the CRJs, so it means obviously that you're going to get realistic figures when you're using this to create your operational flight plan with realistic fuel and weights, etc. With the SimBrief flight plan created, then on your settings page in the EFB is where you can enter your pilot ID from SimBrief. Once that's done, saved, then bringing in your flight plan is easy. For those of you not wanting to spend a long time setting everything up, then we've got panel states which you can select from. We've obviously got on the ground page accessibility to opening, closing all the doors, the ground power GPU, and all of the information that you have downloaded with regards to your flight plan. Via the EFB, you can just press a button and transfer everything over to the flight computer rather than having to enter it all in manually. This too is also true for your fuel and your weights. Once you've got all those again brought in from SimBrief, you can just send those straight across to the flight computer, which means that you can actually set this aircraft up very, very quickly utilizing these options in the EFB. Now, not everything is sent across. You will still need to pick your departure runway, your SID star, your arrival runway, and that's fine because obviously they can potentially change depending upon what the OFP says and what air traffic control wants you to do. Now, the FMS flight computer itself is actually straightforward. If you've never flown the CRJ before, it's not going to take you too long to get to grips with this. There aren't that many pages. It is pretty much one after the other in sequential order. I actually found this a lot easier than a Boeing flight management computer. And as you can see, I was just going through things and checking that all of the route was populated and shown on the navigation display. So yeah, I actually really do like this computer. Coming from an Airbus where I find things really nice and logical, this too should be pretty straightforward if you've never flown one before. So with everything set up, time to get the APU started, and for those of you interested, let's just have a little listen to the sound. So with the APU up and running and the APU power now powering the aircraft, it's time to start the engines. A difference between version 2 and version 1 of the CRJ is you need to push and hold the engine start button in order to trigger the ignition. And there we can see now aircraft is starting up. Let's have a little listen to that engine sound. Now this aircraft also comes with pre-recorded cabin announcements. Have a quick listen.
In case of a drop in cabin pressure, breathing masks will drop from the ceiling and should be placed over your head. If there is smoke in the cabin during the evacuation...
Now obviously not everybody is going to want those, so you'll be able to turn those off, as I know many of you will use custom cabin sounds from various third-party programs. I did find this aircraft very easy to taxi, very little in terms of resistance, so it moved rather freely. In fact, maybe a little bit too much, so I would suggest you might want to dial down your sensitivities for this aircraft if you're coming from flying something a little bit bigger. Before you do depart, remember to set your takeoff trim. This is found on the payload and fuel page, and you can find the display located over on the right hand display unit, and then you'll obviously just need to set that trim value to match. A couple of other things that you don't usually find in Airbus and Boeing: you'll need to turn on the yaw dampener, and you've also got both the Mach trim and stabilizer trim that you will need to turn on. So they are triggered down here on the pedestal, just by the captain's right knee. Missed it that time. Press it once more, and there we go. Okay, so with no warning showing, it's time to make our first flight. So a couple of other little things that you might not be used to if you're coming from Boeing or Airbus. You will need to make sure your heading is synchronized after every turn. I always forget this. And with regards to the speed, you want to set this to your V2 speed plus 10, just for a nice safe margin, and that's going to be your climb out speed. So during the takeoff, I found it very, very reactive on the runway, a little bit squiggly, so definitely need to turn down the sensitivities. Let's have a listen. Now, one of the biggest challenges of this aircraft is that there is no auto thrust, which means you, the pilot, have to keep an eye on that speed, and obviously whether you're climbing in a speed mode, it obviously will determine your rate of climb and subsequently as well the rate of descent. Now let's quickly talk about the performance and FPS with this aircraft. I found this aircraft to be very well optimized. Of course, it is nowhere near as detailed as a Dreamliner or 73 Airbus, etc. It's a much smaller regional jet, but the performance of this aircraft was perfect. I locked my sim to 30 FPS and I had 30 FPS easily all of the way through. So whilst there's not lots in terms of systems depth and things going off in the background, it also means that you're getting a really good quality performing aircraft. So if you have a lower PC system, then do not worry, this will be absolutely fine with regards to your usual flight simulator settings. Now, the handling of the aircraft is definitely something that I would like to see tweaking, because you are instead going to have to cut down the sensitivities that you're currently using with other aircraft. It is incredibly responsive. Personally, I feel too much. Now, I'm not a CRJ pilot. If there are any in there, leave a comment down below and let me know just how sensitive that yoke is. But honestly, I found it very, very difficult to control. Over-controlling was very easily done, and so you definitely had to turn down the sensitivity settings of your flight controller in order to help maintain stable flight. Now, I was shooting an ILS approach here into Edinburgh, and the first time I went through the localizer, it didn't actually capture it. Now, I'm going to put this down to a pilot error more so than the aircraft error. I tried to capture this localizer at probably too sharp an angle, something like 70 degrees, which realistically you wouldn't ever do. Once I captured it at a shallower angle, it worked absolutely fine. And then when taking the autopilot off, of course, manual thrust, and the fact that the sensitivity is a little bit exaggerated for the moment. It wasn't the best landing and line up with the runway I could have done, but not bad for a first go. Realistically, I was too low, so we should have gone around. But anyway, so final thoughts then on this aircraft. This is a great aircraft for those of you who want something a little bit different and enjoy flying those shorter hops. It doesn't have the systems depth that you're going to find with PMDG and Phoenix, and I know that a lot of you actually prefer just a lighter aircraft. That is not to say, though, that you can just jump in and fly this aircraft. You can't. There is lots you've got to do, lots you've got to set up, and you need to manage this aircraft as you fly. So not one for just jumping in and flying, but as a point A to point B aircraft without any sort of major failures or anything like that, this is definitely worth considering. I'd love to know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below. Will you be getting this aircraft? And if you did have the original CRJ, this is a free update. A reminder once again, this is for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, but it does work in Flight Simulator 2024 as well. Don't forget to check out the Contrail store with our exclusive 10% discount code shown on the screen now. Save yourself some money when you're picking up scenery and aircraft add-ons. You can also visit Inibuilds, our other channel partner, link in the video description below, where you can obviously pick up their fantastic scenery and also aircraft they provide as well. Doing that also helps support the channel, so big thank you to all of you using those links. I do hope you've enjoyed the video and found the information in it useful. If you have, please don't forget to leave a like. And if you are new to our channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell so you don't miss any future videos and live streams. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all again in the next one. Bye bye for now.